freedom to, whether it's stalking me outside with your camera outside of these premises.
What are the rules for Cuffort's taking that out? Because you've made a connection now between filming you doing a
I have not
profile
made a
on the
connection,
sidewalk.
Matthew.
I asked you a question.
If stalking
what are
is
the
your-
rules? Yeah, fine. I'm telling you.
Going live because we've been informed that there's a profile of the spokesman of Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, Stefan Dujarric. This is just a typical Dujarric day, you know, coming out. It's around. It's a kind of a. Seems like it's a late one. It's about 5:55 p.m. He's coming out. Hard day's work. Viewers of the noon briefing can see that on 4 of Inner City Press's 5 questions, he gave no answer at all and said he would look for answers at some later date. These involved Burundi war crimes, deaths in South Sudan. The only thing he did answer is that Ban Ki-moon has no connection to his fan club, the Fireflies. Here we go. The B-roll is rolling. Here we go. Here we go. The making of. Ban Ki-moon spokesman. The making of. The making of. This is the man who came into the spokesman's office. Wait, hang on. Let's pull back. This is a good one. This is going to be great. This is just another day with a camera crew. He's rolling up First Avenue. He's got a fold-up bike. He's got a bike helmet.
Not available.
Now, he's pulling out. He's a noted green man. He's a noted climatologist. Of course, it's nice when you can throw journalists in the street, as took place right here. Right here, Inner City Press's boxes were thrown in the street on the orders of spokesman Stefan Dujarric. Stefan Dujarric. Oh, wait a second. Is that a GoPro camera? Do we have a GoPro camera? Is he going pro? We're going to get the B-roll. And then we're going to explain why, after so long, even today, a journalist from South Korea asked why. There he goes. He's up. He's going. He's rolling. It's just another day in Dujarric's world. 4 out of 5 questions unanswered. Maybe there'll be a picture from the bike lane. But the question is this. He always was fine until his boss, Ban Ki-moon, threw Inner City Press in the street, and he did nothing. In fact, he participated in it. How is that possible? How did he participate? Well, there was an event in the UN press briefing room. The day was January 29th, 2016. Inner City Press went to cover it. They didn't say it was closed. Said it would leave as soon as it was shown it was closed in the UN Journal or was asked by a security officer. That's exactly what happened. There was no written record. No written record at all. Dujarric came in and said, and as the video we put online shows, said, please, as a favor to me, just leave. I'll explain on Monday. In fact, later, in a memo written to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, turns out that the private use of the briefing room was arranged between Stefan Dujarric and Gianpaolo Pioli of UNCA with no written record. Still, somehow, Inner City Press was supposed to know these two gentlemen's minds that the meeting was closed, rather than believe a written piece of paper. There was no paper. So here's the real problem. On that Friday, the fact that Dujarric came in and automatically sided with UNCA is one thing. But to participate in a month-long cover-up, to know that Inner City Press was thrown out, was told on the following Monday it was banned from all UN facilities, and months later, when it could have easily been fixed, its files were thrown in the street. This makes Dujarric an extraordinary spokesperson. How can you deal with the press when you're willing to have the press physically thrown in the street, and then when asked about your role, not when asked about the role in connection with letters to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and now to the Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Expression, David Kaye, say, I won't answer your questions. These are too personal. This is going beyond being a spokesman. And so things have hit a new low. What was acceptable non-answering and dodging and general lethargy in the past has become unacceptable censorship. And the question is this. Again, we're not going to get into the specifics of this profile of Stefan Dujarric coming out and biking up First Avenue. But ask yourself, is it a spokesman to pretend in the briefing room to treat the press with respect and then participate behind the scenes in the writing of fraudulent legal documents saying that there was an altercation? That was the last question we've asked Mr. Dujarric about this scam eviction by Ban Ki-moon, the censor. The question was this. Stefan, you were in the room. Was there an altercation? Was there any physical contact other than you pushing the phone to try to turn the Periscope off? And he said, I won't answer this. He walked out of the briefing room. This is when a spokesman goes beyond being a spokesman and becomes a participant in his master's voice, you know? This is what we have to say. He's the spokesman of Ban Ki-moon. He knows that there was no altercation. He knows that there was no written record of a closed meeting, but he did nothing, and Intercity Press was evicted, thrown in the street, and its office given to a state media. Intercity Press asked Stefan Dujarric, has Akbar El-Yam and its correspondent, a former UNCA president, asked a question in this briefing room in the last year? He said, well, I don't take attendance. Well, I'll tell you, has not. No questions. So the reality is his boss, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, evicted Intercity Press, awarded its office to a state media that doesn't comply with the most basic rule of Malu, and the spokesman did nothing. Every day, when he's in town, when he feels like it, he shows up at the podium, and questions are asked, and he says, I'll get back to you, or he says, data hasn't percolated up to me yet, or he denies and says, I don't know why you're asking. We said, actually, he's dropped the F-bomb a couple of times, but that's fine. This is the profile, or the counter profile, walking up this same famous bike lane where, and rather than try to address mistreatment of the press by his boss, now he's arranged B-roll for a profile. This we got to see. This, I believe it may even be on Easy TV, which Mr. Stefan Dujarric claimed when Intercity Press asked how it was being banned from watching a meeting on Western Sahara that the favored journalists still with offices could see. He claimed that Easy TV was easily viewable by the computers in the basement, which is false. So these are the answers. These are the questions. And here we go, up First Avenue. He's long gone. He's long gone. He also made representations to Intercity Press right here. I believe right in this physical location. But we don't even have to get into that because this is bad enough. This, for those who wonder, as one South Korean journalist did today, wonder why things have become what they've become. This is why it's become. Can you imagine spokespeople that you see, whether it's in City Hall, in the White House, at the State Department, can you imagine them conspiring to have a resident correspondent thrown in the street and then say, I won't have to answer about it because it's a personal issue? That is what's happened here. So maybe we'll leave it at that. We can turn to other topics. Today, in the General Assembly, the splitting of the Security Council seat between Italy and Netherlands was approved. There's only one thing. Actually, the vote that took place awarded Italy a 2-year term. And up in Mr. Stefan Dujarric's office, there is a new schedule that says Italy leaves in 2018. There's no footnote. There's no asterisk. There's no caveat saying Netherlands was promised anything. So, I mean, people are people of their word, right? Countries are, maybe. In this case, there's been a lot of strange happenings. There was also, and this may be more controversial, there was a tribute to John Ash. John Ash, the former president of the General Assembly, who was indicted for bribery, not bribery of him by Eng Lap-Seng, but paying bribes, being a conduit also for money from Eng Lap-Seng to buy a document from Ban Ki-moon's secretariat. Now, I don't know if Stefan Dujarric has actually read the indictment or the OIOS audit, but if he has, he would know that the answers that he's been giving are incomplete, misleading, and unacceptable. Because the scandal is not one of the PGA's office in its entirety. The scandal is one that touches on DPI, the very same official who signed the letters to throw Intercity Press in the street, and DGACM, an official of whom doctored a document at the request of John Ash. Now ask yourself, why would an official take such a big risk as to insert the name of a Macau-based company into a UN document that had already been approved if they weren't paid money? Just asking. It's a simple question. But no one has been held accountable. Absolutely no one. Zero. Bike on. Bike on. Fold up your bike and keep on rolling. The questions today, and we're going to come to a close soon here. Questions raised today were something that was asked of his deputy 3 days in a row. How many people were killed in WOW where the UN and UNMISS refused to open the gate to their base? Their idea was, we don't have to open the base to protect people, but even the government says 43 people were killed, and the opposition says 400. So you'd think the UN, with a near $1 billion peacekeeping mission, which closed its gate on civilians in need, could at least come up with the number of people killed. But it didn't. And there's no continuity. The question was posed to Farhan Haq twice in 3 days, And on the fourth day, when Mr. Stefan Dujarric returned to the podium, to the vast wooden mushroom-like rostrum, he said, as if it had never been asked, as if he didn't even read the transcript of his quote-unquote briefing. He said a number of times, I make the decisions in this room. I'd ask, so how do you decide when to postpone or put off the noon briefing in deference to a country? Because he's done it for France and other P5 members repeatedly, but when elected 10 members were being elected in the Security Council, they did the briefing right in the middle of it. He said, well, this is one of the few places I get to make decisions. Which is funny. It's a funny quip, except, you know what? For the UN to preach rule of law, you cannot have a lawless briefing room where a spokesman misrepresents, does nothing as a journalist is thrown in the street, and then says, I don't have to answer you. That's called impunity. That's called lack of accountability. It is the absolute opposite of what a spokesman should be, which is give all the information that you can, try to, quote, use your leverage. He had information. This is the final thing we'll say about this eviction and censorship and Mr. Stefan Dujarric. He was the only, except for his deputy, but certainly the senior UN official that was in the room that knows that the letter that went to David Kay about an altercation is false. And he's been asked about that on camera, and he did nothing except cut the question off and run out of the room. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. It's surprising that things went this far, but there they went. And to jolly up as he was coming out of the building and to arrange powder puff B-roll profiles just don't cut it. Spokesman is supposed to be about information, honest broker, not throwing journalists in the street. And with that, to be continued.
I'll keep it brief, but I have no choice. I wanted to ask you, twice this week I've been accompanied to stake out the Trusteeship Council, or ECOSOC, by Malu, and have, regardless of that, been told by security to leave. So I wanted to know what's happening with this. This happens.
I think,
why I was
Matthew,
late back here
again,
today.
I think
You're saying talk to them, but I have talked to them.
your freedom to work, I think, is wide and broad. Your freedom to, whether it's stalking me outside with your camera outside of these premises, whether it's stalking myself or my staff repeatedly, noting who we talk to, what time we leave the building.
So it's
you're
this
able.
is in
You're able to.
retaliation that
No,
six
it's not in
guards told me to
retaliation.
move.
You're able. You're able to. You're able to do
B-roll
it.
for an NH for a profile of
Mr. Abadi,
yourself.
I mean,
Thank you, Stefan. This is familiar
What are
question.
the
Thank
rules
you.
for taking that out? Because you've made a connection now between filming you doing a
I have not
profile
made a
on the
connection,
sidewalk. You
Matthew.
have. I asked you a question.
If stalking
What are
is
the
your-
rules?
gets you off, then that's-
Yeah, fine. I'm telling you.